Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. This is Richard Doc Owen in the Hilltop Studios, joined by...
I'm a surefire.
And,
Uncle Bocce.
Uncle Dabachi. Full house. Ready to rock and roll. The name of tonight's show is what? Strategic planning? Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Buckle up.
No, well,
Strategic what?
Direction.
Strategic direction.
Yeah.
The planning was last night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just so you'll know, the Doc Owen Show had a very high-powered, interactive, vociferous, name-calling, napkin-throwing meeting last night.
Come on now.
Okay, maybe not that.
No.
And when he says napkins, he's not talking about paper.
No, we're talking serious.
Right?
So anyway, I know that you know that our year starts in September. On September the 11th is the annual renewal of the show, but January always seems to bring out the strategic planner in me and others that says, okay, it's a new year. Let's figure out what we're going to do. And we did quite a bit of that last night, and I want to share that with the audience and reconfirm between the three of us. And we're going to go through that as well as some current events tonight. So that's kind of the plan for the show. And we are all over social media. We are predominantly on Facebook and Twitter as Doc Owen Show, DocOwenShow. You should go to either one of those social media platforms or our very own blog, DocOwenShow.com, and leave us some comments, send us some emails, send us some input after listening to tonight's show. Tell us what we've left out. What you think we're planning to do correctly, and maybe what we're planning to do that is of absolutely no interest to you whatsoever. We will probably still do it, but we will try to give you a heads up, and that's a show you won't have to listen to.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see what we can do about that. One of the things, and by the way, we also have a free app, heavy on the word free, for both Android and Apple devices, and that is really a good, clever, and consistent way to follow the Doc Owen Show, is through that app. And actually, between the app and Twitter, there's very little reason for you to not know that we're on the air and when we're on the air and what it's all about. It's kind of hard to avoid. What else do we need to tell them? I guess that's it in terms of background. We always begin the show in a very strategic manner, and that is that consistent manner. Ms. Surefire gives us an inspirational quote, generally followed by Uncle Bocce doing this day in history, and that too may change. And then I follow it up with something to do with leadership. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from a site that we usually use. It's called PassItOn.com.
Pass it on.
That's right.
Yep.
So tonight's quote comes from a gentleman I had never heard of before, and I guess maybe most people haven't, unless maybe they lived in Hawaii.
Okay.
His name was Joseph Campbell, and he was an American professor, and most of his time was spent in Hawaii.
Huh.
Teaching there. Mm-hmm.
That's good duty.
Right? I know it's really tough to live in Hawaii,
Yeah.
but somebody has to do it, and
Yeah.
he was one of those souls.
Good job, Joseph.
Yep. So tonight's quote is, "We cannot cure the world of sorrows, but we can choose to live in joy."
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Yeah, and very true.
It's a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
it's like trying to live in the past, only remembering all the bad things that
That's
happened.
right.
Right? Yeah.
Right. Let it go.
Let it go.
Okay. Bocce?
Yes, sir. Well, I've got 4 things tonight that happened on this day. In 1916, the U.S. Supreme Court finds the income tax unconstitutional.
Whoa.
So what?
So what was that date?
It was 1916 on January 24th.
I've got a refund coming. I've been paying taxes ever since then.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get into it, but there's a reason why it was
opened the door.
unconstitutional.
Okay.
Okay? Because I got 4 of them, so I have to get through these. In 1946, the UN establishes the International Atomic Energy Commission. Woo! I don't know what that has accomplished.
It keeps your lights on.
Is that what it does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's probably the good thing. In 1972, the Supreme Court struck down laws that denied welfare benefits to people who had resided in a state for less than a year. So, no matter how long you were there, you were able to get subsidized by the federal government. And then in 1994, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that protesters who block access to abortion clinics or in other ways conspire to stop women from having abortions may be used under the federal anti-racketeering statutes. So people standing for moral value can be sued for that. Isn't that wonderful?
Since 1994.
Yep.
You know, almost everything you mentioned
Yes.
that I was paying attention to, I lost track of number 2. I was still on number 1. Is being completely ignored.
Absolutely. Totally.
I mean, what was number 2?
Number 2 was the UN establishment. No, that was the International Atomic Energy. The first
thought that
one
was
was
3.
the tax.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court struck down the laws denying welfare.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah.
All of those that you just mentioned, that they're true. I mean, you're sure. You verified.
Yes, sir.
You cross-checked. You double-checked. You read peer-reviewed journals, and these are facts.
Yes.
Our young people can take these to the bank,
Our young people need
they're-
to take these to the bank.
and they're being completely ignored.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
That's because that's a good question. Because the federal government doesn't give a crap about people or what they did. They don't really care. All they want is their power. They want your money so they can do anything that they want with it.
So
They're going to go ahead no matter what the division of what is it? Separation of powers says.
So if they don't like a Supreme Court decision, they being the federal government, if the majority party, let's put it this way, if the majority party, the party that's in control, does not like the decision of the Supreme Court, that it appears that they simply ignore it long enough that the public either forgets about it or and the initial outcry goes away.
Exactly. I mean, that's the way government has run since day one, except for George Washington, after George Washington.
But not just our government. Any government.
Any government. But, of course, I'm focusing in on our government.
I know, but expand it out. And, now that you put it that way,
Exactly.
then I'm sure that there were protesters in the Roman days that under similar circumstances.
Yeah. They passed laws or they ignored laws that did not benefit them personally.
So were it not for shows like the Doc Owen show, there'd be very little pushback or protest going on.
That's correct.
And we're as I've said before,
Yeah.
a fly on a gnat's butt.
That's true. And what's even worse, what's even more foreboding than that, our children are not being educated in how to push back. They're being indoctrinated into staying with the status quo. Whatever the government does, that's good. So, and this has been going on ever since the progressive era started.
I mean, I grew up with the phrase, you can't fight City Hall.
And
which is basically what Mom and Dad were saying.
Yeah. A lot of people use that, but you can fight City Hall.
Absolutely, you can.
Oh, sure.
And actually, it's in the Constitution, and it's your responsibility to fight City Hall.
Amen.
I mean, not within reason. In other words, you don't take up arms against them, et cetera, et cetera. But you do, and actually, we just celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday.
Yes.
And that was something he was absolutely famous for.
That's right.
Was not following an unjust law. What you're saying?
Very interesting.
We're not following just laws.
Right, because there's no reverence for what the Constitution and Declaration of Independence tells us.
Okay, so good job. Bachi, good job.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, Uncle Bachi. Yeah. At DocOwenShow.com.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
So, I'm going to give you a quote from the Bible.
Hey.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. End of discussion. Right?
Very good.
Hold that thought.
Yes, it's a very good
hold
thought.
Hold that thought as we traverse through this evening's show. So I know that we spent. Bachi, are you ready to do the long-awaited? It's really funny, but the longest president, the president that we had who served the longest tenure in the White House, has taken us the longest time to get to.
Yeah, exactly. How about that?
Because of
You're right.
Because of absences and non-shows and accidents and all kinds of
my
stuff has
goodness.
interfered. So here we are, folks. Tonight
just
is the night that Uncle Bachi is going to give. And remember, Bachi, it's only a 1-hour show, and we've already lost some time. So, can you give us in a nutshell the true essence of Franklin Delano Roosevelt?
Sure, I'm going to do my best about that.
Okay.
And I'm going to bypass all the usual things that I say.
Which people already know.
Yeah, which people probably already know anyway.
We're going to try to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and there's a bigger story here than the personality FDR.
And we've got a couple of listeners that are going to tell us what we missed.
Well,
I already know who they
I
are.
hope so.
I already know who they are.
You know who they are.
Okay, go ahead.
So, FDR, he's the first president that served 4 years. He did not seek to serve 4 years, but somehow or other the Democratic Party put him up for re-election on the third term. And so he just said, oh, okay.
When you said 4 years, in other words, he served 12 years.
He served a total of 12 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this was before they passed the amendment.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. So, and he did a lot of good things. He did a lot of damage to our country, even that go on today. And I'll get into that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to paint a picture of some of the things that he tried to do and power hungry that he was.
Okay.
So he came in at the time of the Great Depression.
Yes.
Okay, which really started under Herbert Hoover,
Yep.
who did everything wrong
Yep.
to stop it.
We've gone through
Well,
that. Yep.
FDR didn't do any differently. He did some really good things, but none of those actually brought the Depression under control.
Okay.
It wasn't until World War II that we got out of the Depression. So his big thing was the New Deal. The New Deal, or at least most of it, was also considered unconstitutional. Okay? This put Franklin Roosevelt up against the Supreme Court. So what Franklin decided he was going to do is he was going to pack the court. He was going to put on a few more justices, at least one justice for every justice that still served who was over 70 years old.
Okay.
And he was going to put judges on there who were amenable to the things that he wanted to do.
To be perfectly clear, to make sure I understand.
Yes.
Not by someone retiring or dying.
Right.
But by adding members to the court.
Right. He wanted to go.
That's a significant point.
Yes, he wanted to bring it up to 15.
Yeah, okay.
Because he wanted them to be on, which is again, it's a sin against the separation of powers for one thing.
Right.
Okay, but he did other things.
He made a run at it.
Yeah. As far as the war is concerned, one of the worst things that any president has ever done is the rounding up the Japanese. We know about that story. They actually put them in concentration camps. They lost everything.
Talk about a major knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and Congress and everybody just let them do it.
Well, we were all,
because it was nothing more than an executive order.
I know, but we were a nation at major shock.
Yes,
never ever been attacked like that.
Okay, all right. So very quickly, some of the things that he brought about, remembering that a lot of this was considered unconstitutional at the time, and it's still unconstitutional. He had the Civilian Conservation Corps, right. And that hired. They put a lot of people to work, 3 million Americans, they put them to work.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right.
Okay. However, it started, the federal government expansion
right.
to be the provider.
The primary employer.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. The Tennessee Valley Authority, again, which created a huge electrical grid, and it still exists today, and it was a good thing for the area where it was, but think about it today. It's still a government-run program, even today. Would it be better if it were a private industry? Because what's happening is our tax dollars are going to pay the salaries of government employees who create electricity for only a certain area of the country. You figure that out. If you think that's fair or not. Young kids, you think that's fair? You're going to be paying for it. Okay, another one was the National Industrial Recovery Act, which again was a public works kind of thing, and the Congress, just went along with it, and that didn't really last all too long. But one of the things that the industrialists hated about it is that it confined them in such a way that they were not able to raise prices, nor were they able to cut wages, regardless of what. So again, the strong hand of government getting in there and doing something that's unnatural.
Right.
Okay? So you make up your own mind whether that was good or not. Okay? The Securities Exchange Commission, which still exists, again, it's government intrusion into investment.
Right.
Probably still does a fairly decent thing. The Work Progress Administration, this one was considered unconstitutional, but before they can even get the Supreme Court to declare it unconstitutional, it wore out. It went poof.
The WPA, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, the Social Security Act. Okay, one of the biggest Ponzi schemes ever. Well, let me. I'm not blaming this on FDR, but he was one who pushed this. And at first, it seemed like a really good thing.
It still is.
It still is for some people, but you have to think about if government was really concerned about the elderly, why couldn't they just get money from them and put it into an investment account of some sort, which is what it was supposed to be.
Well,
but Congress came along and they took the money out of it. So today, now it's called an entitlement.
Well,
so when you open the door to let government control something, that doesn't mean that people come later are going to be be scrupulous and not take advantage of that program.
Okay.
Which they have done. So, you make up your own mind, Guy, whether or not the government intrusion into these things are a good thing. But Franklin Delano Roosevelt expanded the government immensely.
I'm happy.
And we're still paying for it.
Okay. Or may I interject?
Absolutely.
About don't lose your place. Mark your place.
No, okay. I'm good.
The Social Security Act.
Yes.
As intended.
Mm-hmm.
And as codified to begin with, was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was intended to create a safety net for American citizens that either didn't have the wherewithal to do it on their own or the intelligence to do it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And if the forethought or whatever you want to call it, all right? But it was nothing more. It was just a safety net, just enough. It should be just enough for you to get by on if you've done everything else correctly.
That's
right?
correct.
And it was just fine, and you mentioned it, until Congress, our elected officials, needed the money and borrowed from the Social Security kitty.
Well, they didn't.
Basically, no.
Yeah, you could use the word borrowed if you'd like.
That's what they
just
used.
Took it.
Well, but that's what they used when they took it, was we're going to borrow it. We need the cash. And there were an awful lot of people at that time that knew that was a mistake. So back to what you were saying. The things that government does, some things that they do, are whether they turn out well or not is really dependent upon the integrity, the morality, the ethics, the God-fearing Christian nature of our elected officials.
That's right.
When our elected officials lose those principles in their actions, we all suffer. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean,
That's true.
I have this impression of the Social Security Act and what it was intended to do, and it was good, and I will maintain that
The
impression.
intention. I agree with you.
You know
The
what I'm saying?
intention was there to do good things.
That's one thing that I sort of.
Yeah.
I not only do I defend it, but I also point to it as the most visible event when it changed over and Congress took the money. The most visible event of how a crooked government cheats the people out of what they have coming.
Exactly. Exactly.
It is absolutely not
yeah.
an entitlement. It's a
No.
saving. It's an enforced savings plan.
But you notice now they have changed it to an entitlement.
Well, some people have.
Yeah.
I did an entire paper on this in my PhD program.
Hey, the man knows more than I do, folks. Listen to him.
And there is absolutely a way to fix it from a leadership position.
Yes, there is.
All right? I should be able to take if I'm doing well enough at age 66 and a half or 67 or whatever it is, when I'm entitled to take my Social Security, if I'm doing well enough that I don't need the money, I should be able to pass that on to my children or my grandchildren and tag it to their Social Security number.
Yes.
Leave it with the government.
Yeah.
Leave it with the government. In other words, I'll invest in America, But if my child or grandchild does need that money, you give it to them. Mm-hmm. Okay? To me, and I should get an attaboy from the federal government that I can hang on the wall that says, Doc Owen participated in the future of Social Security by doing this.
Yes.
You follow me?
Yes, I do.
And that to me is a very simple solution to get the American public involved in making Social Security do the right thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one I haven't heard. I like
No,
it.
you haven't heard it.
That's a
I
good
like
point.
There have been, yeah.
I presented it to John Cornyn and got laughed at.
Well, consider
Now you know
the
why I don't
source.
like him.
Consider
I know
the
I don't
source.
like him, but
So-
that's another reason.
But you see what I'm saying? It's a good concept, and if you put the good back into it, we could bring it back to life as a good concept.
Or even as some candidates have proposed is to, let's anybody 55 and younger, let them use that money in their own investments.
Well-
And those over 55 to choose whether or not they wanted a lump sum or whether they wanted to continue on Social Security.
There are people. There are people in this world, a lot of them in America, that
Yeah.
absolutely the only way they're going to have anything in their old age if they are forced to put it back by taking it out of their check before they have a chance to get at it. I don't like the idea of privatizing it.
Yeah, well,
I just don't.
okay, that's fine.
Because
But
there'll be too many people left behind, and the ones who do privatize and are successful are still going to have to pick up the slack with other entitlements for the people who took the money out and blew it.
right.
Anyway,
Now, currently, on that note, though, the Social Security fund is supposed to run out of money
yeah,
by 2034. People, that's only 15 years from now. And the unfunded liabilities, which the government doesn't talk about. Yeah, we're $20 trillion in national debt, but that's not at all of it.
that's not the full picture.
It's $210 trillion between Social Security and Medicare.
That's right.
Okay, so
That's right.
anyway, and it started with
not
FDR.
I'm not the slightest bit worried about that because I'm gonna rape and pillage Bill Gates and the guy that owns Amazon, and we'll pay off our debt.
I think they should.
There you go. There you go.
Congratulations, guys! You won the lotto. You now own the United States of America.
Okay. So there's a whole lot more about Franklin Delano
Yeah,
Roosevelt,
sorry,
but
I
I
took-
wanted to bring those and try to push them into today.
Well-
I'm just trying to see where it's affecting us today.
Okay, now that's exactly that was part of our strategic thinking last night. Was
Exactly.
one of the
That's a good
directions
point.
that the show is going to focus on, and you, the audience, are going to have to help drive this, and you're going to have to call us on it when we veer away from that. And that is, we realize that, our target, what we really set out to do, was to talk to young people. And to deliver truth to youth is our tagline. All right? And I think we've done a very good job of that. What we've not done a very good job of, self-included, actually, I'm the driver, so here we go, is relate that truth to a young person's environment and a young person's attitude. Very few 16 to 30-year-olds are involved in politics. Very, very, very few of that group really gets involved in water cooler talk about politics at work. I don't think. I don't hear it. I don't see it. They run, and that's why more than 50% of that age group is okay with socialism. Okay, and they may that's a hard pill to swallow, because socialism, time and again, all over the world, has failed. And everybody
That's true.
and anybody who thinks that they're smarter than that, and they can do it better, and they can do it differently, and it'll work this time, is a freaking idiot.
That's right.
I mean, what's the phrase? I mean, the something about being an idiot about doing the same thing over and over
yeah.
again and
Uh-huh.
expecting
That's the
different
definition
results.
of insanity.
Yes.
That's the definition of insanity. And
Pretty close.
Albert Einstein.
and socialism is exactly the same way. You cannot. It does not work. I'm sorry. It sounds good. There's parts of it that feel good. There's some of it that really makes you go, man, that's cool. It does. I mean,
Yes,
it's almost sexy to think about. Having a minimum wage if you're out of work. There's all sorts of things about it that really ring your chimes and go, yeah, this is the way to go.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Nonsense.
It just doesn't
Absolutely
work.
right.
I mean, following God is the way to go, and that is a long way from socialism. I'm not going to put forward that the opposite of socialism is free enterprise. I mean, entrepreneurship or capitalism and all of that kind of jazz. And that's what everybody does. I think that's going pure on either one of those approaches is a mistake. Socialism's the worst because it's got the least amount of God involved.
Right.
If any.
If any is right.
And the current interpretation has none. I mean, these left wing nuts that are out there have absolutely no Christian bone in their body. They don't.
That's a shame.
It is a shame.
It is.
But we have to live with it, and our young people are enamored with it, and so for our listeners that are not in that age group. In other words, kind of our peers and the people that we hang with and that we see at the various political events that we go to, I'm not going to beg just because that's not how I play ball. But I would encourage you to have your children and or grandchildren at least listen to the Doc Owen show 3 times. That's all I ask for. Listen 3 times. Listen 3 weeks in a row, or download 3 podcasts, or something. And there's a method to the madness because that's what works. And if you think it doesn't work, talk to McDonald's or Jack in the Box or any of these others that offer you a threefer within a certain period of time. That's why they do it, because they're trying to help you form a habit of eating there. All right? So encourage your children and your grandchildren to drop by the Doc Owen Show. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.
Just do a Google search.
Download the app. Just Google search Doc Owen Show and click on any of the links that shows up for several pages. We are even on YouTube, and one of our strategic decisions last night was we're going to increase our use of YouTube and become much more visible and visual in terms of our presentation, because that's what counts nowadays. Most young people don't watch television. They stream stuff on their phone. And they stream it 10 to 15 minutes at a time. Kaboom, done. Thank you very much. And they move on to the next TV show is basically how they look at it. Just like, our generation got hooked on sitcoms because they were short little 30-minute blips.
Right.
And took very little brain power to pay attention to. Doc Owen Show's not going to be that way. We're going to cause you to think. So, and the other thing that we decided, help me out, gang, on our strategy. We're going to amp up. As a matter of fact, we've already reached out to one of our more favorite guests over the years and gotten a very favorable response. So you can expect to hear from our friend Nico LaHood on a very regular basis.
Awesome.
Nico is no longer in public office, but he is still just as smart as he was when he was there. Yeah. And he might even have a little more freedom not being currently in office. He's never considered himself a politician, and I never have considered him one either.
Right. Right.
That's true.
He's just a good, fine, very smart, well-educated Christian guy that our audience likes to hear from, and we've already set that ball in motion, and he'll probably be a regular once a month. Is what we're planning on.
So he can start sharing again his Nico's nuggets of knowledge.
Oh, write it down. Write
I
it
like
down.
that.
Uncle Bocce's Brief and Nico's Nuggets.
And Nico's Nuggets.
Make a note. Good idea, Emma. So that's one thing that I wanted to bring up. We're going to reach out to some of our better guests that we've had in the past. And we kind of got slack on that during the last quarter of last year, only because there was just so much going on. We frankly didn't have the time to do the scheduling and focus on it. So we're going to ramp that back up with folks like Publius Hulda and some very professional people from the Center for Immigration Studies. We'll probably have Dinesh D'Souza walking through the showroom, once or twice this year, just because even if he doesn't have a brand new movie or a brand new book, he's a good guy to talk to.
Yeah.
And he's very well connected with the college crowd.
Yes,
I won't say he's really liked by the college crowd, but on some campuses he is, and on others but they always go to listen to him because of the way he presents his point of view.
Yeah, he has an integrity about him that they can trust.
He's a former college president.
And Diamond and Silk.
Yep,
yes. I try to reach out to them.
We're just trying to coordinate with them. I mean, they're open. It's just they're busy.
They are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ever since they did their movie,
I love their movie.
They've ramped up. So anyway, that gives you. So if you've got some, and to one of our very special listeners, Fallon, I promise you, I'll reach out to Diane West. I've been putting that off. I'll get her done. I'll read the books and get her done. The reason I've been reluctant is because I've not read her writings, and I like to be informed. So I will get that done. She's a very well-known author that speaks truth beyond belief in terms of her the amount of research she puts into her books.
That's a neat little phrase there.
What?
Truth beyond belief. I mean, think about it. That's really that's a catcher.
Well, that's true. I mean,
there you go.
There are some things that you read that people you trust, and they cite their sources and everything, and you're like, literally, if you don't sit there and think, that's unbelievable.
Right.
Dinesh is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to the right sources. You're not. I would hope that is said about us every once in a while. Did you hear what they said on Doc Owen? I don't believe that shit. But it's true. I mean, that's what we try to put out there. What else, Bocce? What am I missing, Emma?
The store.
Oh, the store. Oh, and a special thing about the store. We've been talking about this, and I guarantee you by the end of the quarter, which is the end of March, the Doc Owen Show /store, STORE, the doors will be open on the store. So there's people out there right now going open, and we're doing it. We've figured out how.
Right.
We've got the guy lined up, and the store is going to be focused on 3 things because 3 is the magic number. We just talked about it in terms of listening to the show 3 times. 3 is the magic number to get people engaged. The 3 Ps. We want you to be a prepared, practical patriot. All right? And Ms. Surefire is going to personally decorate one subcategory of those 3 Ps.
Yeah.
All right? You want to tell them about that?
Prepared also means pampered.
There's going to be a pampered section for our female members.
All right.
And have you ever heard of glamping?
Glam?
Glamping.
No.
Okay. There's a thing out there that it's called glamping, and it's glamorous camping.
Oh.
Speaking of being pampered, there's a whole industry built around camping that is just completely over the top in terms of
They do that a lot with the trucks,
the
too.
comforts of home. Right. The rebuild of the old Airstreams and all, I mean, there's this whole industry called glamping. If you're not familiar, go to your I hate to say it. Go to your Google machine.
There's also a she shed, I was told right now.
Yeah, but you can't say that. Anything you can't say 5 times fast and have it come out okay. Then.
That's why I only said it
He
once.
shed what?
Something about seashells, but that's all.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so there'll be a subcategory in there that'll be like how to be prepared without leaving behind your personal effects. I mean, it's not all about warfare and grease paint and stuff like that.
No, us women understand that we also have to remain pampered as well, especially in times of duress.
Okay. It's an equal vote around here.
There we go.
So just consider it done. When you go to the store, there'll be these 3 main things. It'll be prepared and practical and patriot. And then when you click on prepared, you'll have probably 2 options. You can go down the pampered path or I don't know what we're going to call the other one. But when we go down the pampered path, is it going to open up into like a pink room?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but there could be florals involved. Just saying.
Florals and lots of candles, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we need a practical perfume that is patriotic and get you prepared.
Well,
There you go. You focus on the senses.
Yeah.
all of your old time preppers, of which I happen to be one, tells you that perfume is not a good idea.
Okay.
It attracts bugs.
Okay.
It does. So anyway, when you're out,
If you
you're
say
out-
so.
it does. I'm telling you. So that's kind of the direction that we're going, and then the other idea is to take the news, take elements of current events, and try to extend them out or push them back in history.
Yes.
Either way,
Right.
right?
Right.
And explain to our young audience why it's either a good idea or a bad idea, or where it's coming from, or where it's been tried before.
Or do you care?
Well,
If you don't, we want to know what you do care about, right?
you mean to care about our selection of... Well, for instance, one of the things we talked about last night was, do we really think that our young audience is all that involved and understands all the blah-de-blah, hoopla, faldera that went on around Kavanaugh and why the Supreme Court justice is important?
I would say most of them
Couldn't care less.
There are some,
Yeah, but
like
it's a,
maybe
it's a
Covington
small...
Catholic High School.
It's what, and you know the bottom line to that. You know now what has now come out in the press. Have you seen the YouTube, the homemade, home done YouTube videos of? That's right out front.
Boy, they're coming after us.
I don't
Must
know.
have said something wrong.
Oof, I can't imagine what.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
so-
know.
I'm seeing the lights through the window. So, have you seen the latest YouTube on that Covington Catholic thing?
I haven't seen the latest
It's a
YouTube, but I've...
It's what you think it was and what you were told it was a complete freaking lie.
Absolutely.
I mean, I won't even give it the grace of calling it fake news.
No,
it
it's
was
not.
an
It was outright lie.
absolutely a lie. It was exactly the opposite of what you were told it was.
Absolutely.
The young man who's in front of the Indian veteran simply stood his ground while the Indian veteran attacked him.
That's correct.
Over the top attacked
That's right.
him. So, there's just,
Yeah.
it happens all of the time.
Yeah. And one of the things I think that the mainstream media is pushing now, because they have to figure out something to attack. Now it's the MAGA hat.
Aye.
It reminds me and puts me in fear of the Ku Klux Klan. That's what they're trying to
OMG.
pass. Is they're demonizing the MAGA hat.
That's hard.
I know, right? I mean, come on,
there's an
people.
element of our country, approximately one half,
Yeah,
actually,
unfortunately.
that is triggered by anything of a God is great, America is great. They're triggered by anything down that path. All right. I would submit to you that they have zero self-esteem. They have zero self-confidence. They lack any simulation whatsoever of being able to do logical, critical thinking. They're zombies. They're just not themselves. And I don't see it being productive. We're not capable of reaching them. We're not. The best we can do is to try to figure out how to control them.
Yeah.
And with a kind and gentle hand, lock their ass up.
That'll be difficult.
I don't know. If we would follow the law, if we would enforce the law, it would be a whole lot easier.
Yes,
Instead of making exceptions and saying, "Oh well, they didn't really mean it."
Yeah.
No, lock them up. There's a fine line, and when they cross the line, you don't move the line back. You lock them up. Let them think about it for a few days. If they're back at it, lock them up again for a few days longer. That's how it works. That's how I was told it worked. I was, you better know where that line is. And the line is called the law.
And as you bring children up, you call it boundaries.
Same thing.
That's right.
It's the same.
Whatever
the same concept.
Whatever the word, you're absolutely correct.
Because there's security in boundaries.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And it's a very valid point.
Yeah.
And as they get older, they learn that those boundaries are reinforced by the law. But you're absolutely correct. Good point, Bocce.
That's
I like
a good
it.
one.
I like it. So that's the direction that the show is going to go. Things like we just talked about, and points of conversation like Uncle Bocce just brought up. What else? Oh, there was another. Well, let's talk about the government shutdown.
What shutdown?
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, has any? As a matter of fact, since it's really strange, but since the government shut down, my mail's arriving like 3 hours earlier every day.
That's true.
Yes.
Do you know
I checked the box and it's on time.
You know when you're. This is the something that was explained to me when I was in sales. Do you know the best way to motivate a salesperson? Any salesperson, and so the best way to motivate a lot of employees, right, is to fire the guy at the bottom. Just boom, chit, you're done. It's kind of like if do you fish, Bocce? Have you ever been fishing with earthworms? Where you use live worms?
Yeah, but not. Yeah.
Huh?
Not recently,
You didn't
for
like
sure.
it, but not recently. But he's squirming. If you've ever pinched an earthworm because you're only going to use part of it on your hook, what happens?
The other one grows.
Well,
I thought that was a lizard.
the one that you're not holding to scurries its ass off. And,
That's right.
And gets to work. You know, and it's the same thing with a sales force. If you fire the bottom, if you fire the bottom guy on the rung, everybody else goes, "Oh, he's serious. We're out of here. Time to do something."
Yeah.
And so the same thing. I mean, that's sort of the same thing about crowd control or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, if you could apply that to this government shutdown,
Yes, that's
with
what.
with all these people that are supposedly not getting paid.
Right.
Okay, with my heart, I feel sorry for them. But with my reasoning, I hope they all go find different jobs. Because if the government can still run without them, then there's something that is not needed. I'm sorry, folks. I know if you're one of them. No. I know personally somebody who is, and I have compassion. But it's up to me to help that person, not the government.
I would submit to you that we all know, including federal government employees, that it is bloated. There are, but it's bloated. I mean, there's way too many people working for the federal government. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I said that very wrong. There are way too many people on the federal government payroll who are not working.
Yeah.
That is the point. And they know they can't be fired. You know, that there's nothing that can be done about it. They have no reason to be productive. You follow me?
Right.
They have no reason to make quota. They have no reason to hit their key performance indicators. Because what's going to happen to them? Absolutely nothing. They're going to, as a matter of fact, what they're probably going to do is get demoted where they have less to worry about for the same amount of money. Because they don't take money away from them, they just take responsibility away from them.
Sure.
It's unbelievable. So the government shutdown, I mean, I
was going to say, too bad it just stops at the federal government level.
Well, that's where it's the worst. That's where it's the worst.
You know what I'm getting at, right?
Yes, I do. It is government wide, municipal, state, federal. They all could stand a real good house cleaning. Yep. And it's been that way for generations. It's kind of like Social Security Administration. Some things just get bred in, and you can't fight City Hall. But maybe we have somebody now in the presidency that has a different view of things.
Yes.
I mean, this is a businessman.
Yeah.
He doesn't run a not-for-profit business. He runs profit-making businesses, and when they're not, he declares bankruptcy and gets the hell out.
Right.
He uses the tools that are given to him to just exit. We're done. No, you can't make it work. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to something that does work.
Exactly.
And so I think it's gonna get interesting. We don't have another show between now and the supposed State of the Union. So hang on to your hats, folks. Let's see if we have one or not on the 29th, right?
Yep.
So I hope we do. I don't care where it comes from. I'll be watching it. It'll be on the internet somewhere. It won't be on mainstream media, which doesn't bother me at all. but at least, I got a feeling he will have something to say at the normal time that the State of Union would have been addressed. And there's just no telling what that will be. But it'll be interesting. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.